Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end game. I am now simply in a t-shirt. This is all we have left. All right, we are back. Another day. Another new set of cards revealed from the upcoming LOR expansion. We got another champion revealed today, this time from the Freljord region, and it's Lissandra. Real quick, I've been really wanting to do a reaction video in addition to these card reviews. However, the Riot creator support team tweeted about a music licensing issue they were having with their card reveals on their YouTube channel that they are currently investigating. And for the time being, they're asking content creators that if they're going to do a reaction video, to mute the music in order to guarantee avoiding the copyright claim system on YouTube and keep the reaction video from getting flagged. This was an issue that actually started during the Jarvan reveal, with some content creators getting their videos flagged and demonetized, which sucks because today would have been a really good day to do a reaction video for me. I got super hyped when watching the Lissandra trailer. So I'm personally going to hold off on the live reactions for now, but for all the YouTubers out there that have been doing the reaction videos, you can still do them if you want, but you have been warned. Anyway, let's start off by talking about Lissandra. Lissandra at level 1 is a 3-mana 2/3 with tough. When I'm summoned, summon a Frozen Thrall. I'm going to put the Frozen Thrall up on this screen. That'll be edited in, so you guys can see what that is. I'm still going to read off what it is, though. Don't worry. Anyway, in order for Lissandra to level up, you need to summon at least 2 allies that cost 8 mana or more. When she does level up, you create a Watcher in hand. That should also be on the screen as well. Now at level 2, she's a 3-mana 3/4 with tough. Your Nexus is tough. When I'm summoned, summon a Frozen Thrall. And at the start of every round, you create a fleeting 0-cost Ice Shard in hand, which is a fast spell that deals 1 to everything and normally costs 3 mana. We'll get to Ice Shard a little bit later on, my thoughts on that. So what is the Frozen Thrall? The Frozen Thrall is a 1-mana landmark, which I'm sure you can see on the screen now. That reads countdown 8, summon a Frostguard Thrall. The Frostguard Thrall is an 8-mana 8/8 with Overwhelm. All right, so Lissandra. I'll just go ahead and say it now. Other than the one other spoiler we got today, there's currently no other way to advance the countdown on the Frozen Thralls. We'll get to that card later on in the video. But unless we get another card that in this set that advances the countdown on landmarks in general, we'll be looking at these Frozen Thralls hatching sometime after round 10 in most scenarios. Just for that reason alone, I'm pretty glad Lissandra has tough, meaning she's a little bit more difficult to take out with damage. And I'm also glad that she's yet another champion that doesn't need to be in play in order to level up. Speaking of leveling up, if she does flip, she goes from a decent early game champ that's tough to kill early on to an absolutely insane champ that also makes you tough to kill. Literally. This is the first time ever in the game where the Nexus itself can actually gain a keyword. The Runeterra team at Riot is continuing to push the envelope with this set, I feel like. Giving keywords to the literal Nexus, champs hitting level 3 now. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. Really shaking up the game. I am assuming your Nexus having tough is only going to last as long as Lissandra is in play. Unless, of course, this is another situation similar to Zoe, in which case this would have to be reworded to actually show that the effect lasts for the rest of the game. There was some confusion when Zoe first came out regarding her text, because on her original text, nowhere on it did it show that her effect lasted for the rest of the game, even if she wasn't in play. When in fact that was the case. But Riot reworded it later on to where it makes sense. Anyway, either way, I think Lissandra's still going to be quite good, even if the Nexus losing tough is actually the case. I think Lissandra level 2 is still quite good. Now, regarding the Watcher. So the Watcher, I'm glad we're getting another mill mechanic outside of Maokai, who I feel is pretty inconsistent when it comes to actually decking your opponent. And it's usually not worth going for as a win condition, to be honest. It's more of a backup win con in the case of Maokai. If it happens, it happens. If not, it's not a big deal, because you have giant sea monsters to beat your opponent up with anyway. Actual mill decks have overall been pretty awful in Legends of Runeterra, and Hexcore Foundry didn't make them much better, at least in my experience. That said, I have my doubts on the Watcher being consistent as well. It seems like it would still take forever to get the Watcher to 0 mana cost. I think from a design standpoint, Riot is fine with having mill in LOR, but they don't want it to be the main focus of any deck, which I'm beginning to accept as someone that's played Magic during its earliest days and was used to mill decks being tier 1 at some points. It's always been one of those mechanics that's only fun when you're the one doing it. But getting actively decked out by your opponent never feels great when you're on the other side of it. As far as decks and champions that Lissandra will end up pairing with, I think she is likely an easy enough upgrade for Aurelion Sol ramp decks, but only if there's a way to consistently activate the Frozen Thralls earlier, as in before round 10. Other than that, I could see Lissandra working well with Talia in a control style deck with landmark manipulation, possibly, as long as you can manage both sides of the board and your health total. I've seen others saying Trundle, and that could work as well, since Trundle gives you an 8 mana unit in the form of the Ice Pillar. As far as the trailer itself, I really love the trailer. Lissandra's voice actor, she reminds me of Frieza from Dragon Ball. Some of the Dragon Ball, if there's any Dragon Ball fans, you know what I mean. If you go back and listen to the trailer, you're going to be like, oh, well, thanks, Mully. Now I cannot unhear it. Oh, at least I warned you. All right, anyway, on to Entomb. 5 mana, fast spell, obliterate a unit, and summon a frozen tomb in its place. In the case of Lissandra's champion spell, you create a Lissandra in your deck. This card is pretty garbage. I don't see any use for Entomb other than to set up a future turn to play It That Stares specifically. Something they did also show off in the Lissandra reveal trailer today. Other than that, 5 mana to play what's effectively a worse version of Will of Ionia is way too much. The only other unit you could pair this with is Desert Naturalist, and I feel like if you're going to use this card, you have to pair this card specifically with a unit that destroys landmarks, so you at least get a body on board for your trouble, and not just another spell that removes landmarks. If you use this with a landmark removal spell, in my opinion, you're just throwing mana away. All right, let's move on to Ice Shard. 3 mana fast spell, deal 1 to everything. So I'm glad Freljord is getting this. It is not because this is Freljord's first fast spell ever in the history of LOR, which it is. They've never had a fast spell before. This is the first one. It's actually because they're no longer tied to running Shadow Isles for Withering Wail if they want a sweeper type spell at fast speed. And this is cheap enough to be considered, since it hits that magic number of 3 mana for a spell, meaning you can play this just off of the spell mana that you banked from a previous turn. I think this will see play, especially in Freljord control decks that are looking to move away from Shadow Isles. All right, we switched over to the other graphic. Once again, a quick shout out to KozmicPlays for putting this graphic, the all-in-one graphic, together for the community, for any of our content creators to use. He's been doing this since spoiler season for the Rising Tides. Very, very much appreciated. Be sure to check out his stream above my head. That is the link, twitch.tv/KozmicPlays. He typically streams Legends of Runeterra at night, Eastern Standard Time anyway. So if you're in NA, it's going to be in the evening. If you're in EU, it'll be, depending on where you are, pretty early in the morning. So yeah. All right. Next we have Draklorn Inquisitor. 5 mana, 4/5. When I'm summoned, summon a frozen thrall. At the end of each round, if the countdown of any of your frozen thralls is 4 or less, advance them to 0. So this is the card that was shown today that's able to activate your frozen thralls quicker. If we don't get any other cards to advance landmarks in general, then I think Lissandra decks are forced to play this card. And that even might still be the case if we do get something else that advances landmarks in general. But this card's, it's decent. Even later on, it's still giving you a frozen thrall when played, so it's doing something for 5 mana, despite being slightly understated for a 5-drop. 3 Sisters. 1 mana burst spell, create a fleeting flash freeze, Fury of the North, or Entomb in hand. I think this is one of the best cards that they showed today. This is going to go into multiple decks that are using flash freeze as a flex spot right now, and whatever fringe decks are still using Fury of the North for the same reasons. The extra 1 mana you have to pay to get to those effects is more than a fair price to pay for the added flexibility that this card gives you, in my opinion. All right, next we have Blighted Ravine. 4 mana landmark. When I'm summoned, heal your Nexus 4. Countdown 1, deal 2 to everything. This card is not a replacement for Avalanche. Let's be clear on that. It is nice that this heals you for 4, but your opponent does get a little bit of time to set up their board state in a way where the Avalanche effect is mitigated. And that includes not playing units they don't want to get damaged. Also, sometimes waiting an extra turn to get off your Avalanche will be too late against aggro decks, since 1 turn of extra damage dealt can make a huge difference for aggro that 4 health might not be enough to mitigate. I don't think this card is awful, but this is not a better version of Avalanche, and we'll likely see more play in landmark focused decks running Talia. And finally, we have Cold Resistance, 5 mana burst spell. Get an empty mana gem and grant an ally +0/+2. So naturally, this is going to compare to Catalyst of Eons, since it's the same card, except you're trading Nexus health for a permanent health buff on one of your units. I do think this card is a little better than Catalyst once you reach the late game and the ramp part becomes irrelevant, but this card, it might still be a hard sell for dedicated ramp decks that don't run a lot of units anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this is probably going to be a meta call in the worst case scenario. If ramp decks get more value out of a health buff than healing their Nexus in certain metas, they will play this card. Otherwise, they'll stick with Catalyst. I do not see ramp decks playing both. But that is all the cards that we got today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to leave a like below the video. Helps me out. Obviously pushes the video out to others in the community here on YouTube. Helps out as far as the algorithm goes. Ultimately helps the channel grow. Again, it is optional, but if you do, I would very much appreciate it. If you don't want to miss future videos from me, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell also below the video. That way you are guaranteed to know when the next video goes live. But that's it from me. I don't want to ramble too long. I am very hyped for Lissandra. I'm very excited to see what deck builders are going to come up with as far as Lissandra goes. I hope it is more than just a Sol ramp, if that's even going to be a thing. So thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to watch this, and I'll see you all next time.